Welcome to the Best You Nation. My name is Adlin. This is Finn.
What's up?
And we host a podcast that is called The Best You Nation. And it is designed, it's been created, the foundation at the root, the core of it, of becoming the best versions of ourselves on a day-to-day, week-to-week, hour-by-hour, minute-by-minute basis.
No way. Are you serious, Adler?
We are always striving for self-improvement and to be the best versions of ourselves. And furthermore, thank you guys for tuning in and thank you guys for listening to us, because without you, we wouldn't be able to do this. And we've experienced some exponential growth. And we got to give you, first of all, kudos to you guys, the listeners, for allowing us to be on this type of platform and allowing us to grow and to, be ourselves in front of you guys. So we appreciate you. Next up, the Kudos Corner, because
Kudos Corner.
We started with you guys. Next, we have my younger brother, Henley. If you guys are in the Daytona area, this guy is the assistant general manager. He is the guy, the GOAT. He's a go-to guy. If you have, if you want to see any movie, whatever the case may be, go out to Cobb Theaters. Be like, hey, your brother sent me. Tell him to say hi. Mention my name. And, congratulations, Henley.
So if Henley, you listen to this podcast episode today or at some point, just know when you have an influx of people at your movie theater, you know who to thank.
You better cut me a percentage of that. I'm just going to say, if there is an influx. I just want to put that out there. And last but not least, the third person we're going to give kudos is to my guy right here on my right, Mr. Finn Foster, because now, officially speaking, he is hold on, the correct terminology is published author. I have to make sure I say that right because we have a lot of critics in the room. But he is now officially a public author.
No, it's not a public author. It's a
published. Okay, well, you know. Anyway, he's public as well because it's not a private book anyway. But he's officially a published author. When does the book come out? Finn, tell the people.
So, if you guys are interested in getting the pre-order, getting a head start, getting the pre-season ticket, so to speak, go ahead and check out.
You mean if you'd like to have exclusive...
Oh, God.
Exclusive...
Yes. It's the one time I don't use the word exclusive.
An exclusive chance to preview the book. Go ahead.
No, it's not even... Yeah, so it's not even previewing. You actually have the opportunity to exclusively... order the book before everybody else. There is a pre-order date.
Oh, yeah.
And there's also a official release date, which will be announced in a further time on another episode. So make sure to tune into the Best You Nation on a weekly basis to pick up on these details and these important tidbits that we're sharing with you. But right now, I'm sharing with you guys something really exclusive, and that it is June 25th. Mark your calendars. Set a reminder. Whatever you need to do, just know that June 25th will be the official time that you can pre-order my book on Apple Books or Apple iBooks, whatever it is, and I believe Amazon.
Yep.
But those are the two main platforms right now. As we speak, there will be some other really cool incentives that I'm going to be doing, which I mentioned on my Instagram video. So if you have not done so,
check it out.
Make sure to check it out. I'm going to be doing a giveaway, so make sure to stick around to hear more a little bit about that. But I have a kudos corner too. Well, someone from my kudos corner, I guess.
Okay.
So, it's a little bit a ways. We have about another month left of school as far as for everybody, really. I want to shout out to my brother, Luke. He is graduating high school here in about a month. And it's crazy to think how fast time is. So while you're mentioning your brother, Adler, I'm going to mention my brother.
That's cool. Go ahead.
He's a smart kid. I mean, he has always been very, very... I don't know, he's the type that never had to study. Mm-hmm. I'm the type that had to make flashcards, write notes, and study the books all night long. And Luke over here, he's out there making it happen, and he's going to be hopefully pursuing law someday. So I want to shout him out because I know he's been working really hard to get through the online school, which he absolutely hates, but he's been acing it really, really well.
That's
so I want to shout out to him.
Beautiful.
And that's pretty much it for Kudos Corner.
I think we did a pretty good job of covering everything. Yeah. Last week we talked about treating yourself, right? and we talked about
Tom Haverford actually says it really well.
Yes,
from Parks and Recreation.
Parks and Rec, because we kind of struggled to come up with the name last week.
Season, yeah.
But yes, it is Tom Haverford.
Tom Haverford.
Haverford, or Aziz Ansari, his character. So we kind of discussed treating yourself in reference to just having some self-love, just being able to love yourself.
I did some of that this past week.
Yeah, and it's something that you really have to do. Once a month, I try to get a massage, or I try to do something that to make me feel good about myself. I usually typically feel good about myself, but there's just sometimes you just want to just pamper. So I get myself a nice little dinner, get myself a massage. Read a book, or sometimes just sit there and just watch anime all day, or watch a movie all day, have a movie marathon, like Star Wars or whatever the case may be. Just
Marvel.
Marvel. Yes, I've done that many times. Whatever it is, just pick a day out of the month. There's 30 days in most months except for February, obviously, and you can at least find one day to dedicate to yourself and just to be able to just enjoy life, just experience new things, experience different things, So I don't see anything wrong with that, and that's something that we encourage our audience to do, and that's something that we practice over here. So not only are we telling you to try it, but we're leading by example.
No, for sure, and I mean that's what gives us, such a. I don't want to use the word credible, but that really gives us the opportunity to be on the same page with you guys. Sure. One of the things we've talked about off air, Adler, is like the idea that what are we doing to be different to most podcasters? And I think one of the biggest things that we're doing right now is that we're leading by example. We are living in the moment. You guys are getting to be a part of our journey as we're growing and as we're focusing on becoming the best. I've learned a lot about being vulnerable. That's something that I would say, if you're going to take anything from my book, that's like one of the number one things is becoming disciplined enough to accept the vulnerable aspects of your life, right?
Yeah.
And so because of that, that's given me the opportunity to be a better version of myself, so that I can, be more transparent with people, being a little bit more relatable with people. And so with that being said, I try to, bring these things to our podcast. And I think even in the last few seasons, we've really, both of us, I would say, and that's another thing I'm really proud of just bringing this opportunity. We're becoming a more, how do you want to say this? A little bit more communicative about things that are a little bit beyond the superficial, which is something that everybody struggles with. But like today's topic, which I'm gonna let you take over and take the mic to say, but we focus on these points because we are also growing individually. So I just wanted to throw that out, because I think people look for like a Tony Robbins or like a Jeff Bezos, who these guys who have podcasts and books, and they talk about these things because they've made it. We're making it, and that's the difference. We're making it. We're getting to where we're going, and you guys get to be a part of that journey, instead of it like, hey, I'm at the finish line. Come on now. Come on, everybody. Let's go. No, we're doing this together. We're holding hands.
It's basically like, imagine listening to Steve Harvey and watching Steve Harvey prior to him getting his like own like TV show where he's interviewing people, or looking at like Gary Vee in 2008, 2009, when he was on the precipice of growing into Gary Vee that we love and know now. Mm-hmm. Like, you guys kind of get like a backstage pass to the Best You Nation, how we started and to where we're gonna go. We have no idea how far or how high it's gonna go. The only thing that I'm sure of is that I know that it's going, and it's going in the right direction. And I believe that it's largely part of the I know we gave kudos to you guys earlier, but it's largely to have to do with the audience. It's the audience that makes us, and you guys actually take time to listen to us, and I'm super appreciative of it. And I've had people reach out to me on 24 hours a day to say that the content that I'm producing, or the content that we're producing, is affecting their lives in a very pleasant manner, in a pleasant fashion. And that's something that we tried to go for impact. It's not really about like the money and like fame and all that stuff, because everybody, if you do it for the wrong reason, you're not gonna be able to do it. The reason why we do it night in and night out, we lose sleep over it, is because this is genuinely touching the lives of people that actually listen, and that's something that we're super appreciative. And I can't stress it enough. Thank you guys. We appreciate that. Today, I kind of wanted to talk on something that, technically, this is a little bit out of both of our wheelhouse, considering that we are single. But I will tell you this: I have been in situations where I'm dating someone, and I'm absolutely in love. Like, I'm telling you, like, this. Wow, I'm captivated. Every second I want to spend with this person, and I want to experience different things, new things. I want to experience new foods and go visit countries we've never visited before, and try things I've just never done before with this person, because that's my person. That's not only just the person that I'm dating, but it's also my best friend. And then something happens, and things kind of turn far left, and things kind of start to fall apart, and then we break up. And once we break up, it's kind of like, where do I go there from now?
It's like you're in this abyss of silence, an abyss
Yeah.
of confusion, and you're just got all these emotions that are
Yeah.
just off the palette, and you don't know where to start.
No, and that's exactly what it is. And I know for a fact there's a lot of people out there that have that exact same thing. Like they're hurting, and you're miserable. You cry every single day, and you just don't feel like hanging out with friends. You don't feel like doing things. You don't feel like eating. You don't like you're just not yourself. And I think that it's super important to be 100% all in the relationship that you're in. And I want to put that as a disclaimer first. But I also feel like there has to be some level or some sort of balance to it, right? Where we're together and we're growing together, we're striving after our goals together, but then at the same time, I can also kind of do something to, I guess, produce fruit for the individual, because you got to think of relationship kind of like a farmer, right? You plant seeds and you water it, you nurture it, you allow it to grow. So
Right.
you guys grow together, but you can't stop growing individually as well. And that's something that's super key, super important. And it's not necessary to say that when you break up, it makes things easier or better or anything like that. But when you kind of know who you are as an individual, you don't feel like, where do I go or what do I do now? You just now it turns into, all right, get back to the basics. What do I know? What do I love about myself? And that, I think that's the hardest thing, is people struggle loving themselves after they go through a traumatic experience like that. They just kind of, and there's two types of people. There's the ones that kind of run away from the pain, and the ones that pretend like it didn't happen. Or no, sorry, that's the same person. Someone who runs away from the pain, and the other one that just kind of just sits back and just lies in self misery in the pain.
No, I think you're going down a path that I am also very familiar with, and I think that with the way that things are going, I want to touch base on a previous relationship that I had, and I go to this relationship a lot, and I have had a lot of learning touch points that were presented to me as the man, and of course it's going to be easier to speak from the man's perspective as far as relationship, but I think there's a lot of women and men that both counter experience both sides. That we, so to speak, society calls, oh, this is what the woman experiences, or hey, this is what the man experiences. I think that both men and women both can experience the traumatic experience a little differently, but indifferently at the same time. So almost in the sense where both parties can experience the level of emotion, the level of investment, the commitment, the consistency that is involved. So what I want to touch base on is, number one, this is a crucial part in this relationship that I was in. First of all, when you get to know somebody, you start off as a friend. You get to learn somebody. Your goal is to establish a common ground. It's kind of like, the story in the Bible of the two brothers, that built a house. One built it on stone and then one built it on sand. And if you're not, you can have. I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to take that example and I'm going to push it forward a little bit. I'm going to use cement. So cement starts off as a powdery material. What do you have to add it to make it strong, or to make it, to become an actual piece
Cohesive.
of
Yeah.
is water.
Water.
But when you think about building a house on cement, right? You're not building on the powder. You're building it on this, the cement, the blocks, the stuff. When you add water to the powder, it creates this very sediment, like this very structured object, so to speak. And so when you get to learn about somebody, you're utilizing the water, you're getting to pour in water and pouring in the cement, and so to speak, in this relationship, and you're building a foundation. I think that when most people get into these relationships, they find that they're using cement, quote unquote, but they're really not adding the water. They're just expecting it to be, hey, here's a cement. Now, when I say that, it is more common because while we are so-called building and committing and investing into one another and wanting to have these shared dreams and these shared goals, like whether it's, hey, I'm going to pursue my education, I need you to be there too doing that.
Yeah,
that was something that I was in my last relationship. My biggest thing was I know that she was wanting to start her college education, and I said, well, what's holding you back? Now, granted, I hadn't really got a chance to start in college because I was working full time, and I still am, but I wasn't ready to start school. I know she could have done it because she was part time. So I said, why don't you hop on school? Like, whatever you need to do, let's sit down and let's get a plan together. And she said, oh, okay, almost as if it wasn't really a priority. And so then, things like that, even with just the overall foundation of the relationship, communicating certain things, talking about some of the issues that were needing to be talked about. One of the things I think that most people don't see or don't understand is when you're in the relationship, right? You do get to experience the great aspects of the relationship. But I think what pulls us away sometimes, and it starts to pull us so far that we end up being on the outside of the relationship and we're actually broken up from this person, those are the things that are constantly intoxicating the relationship. It's kind of like injecting yourself. You keep injecting yourself with this toxin. And so eventually it's either you got to stop injecting yourself or allowing that injection site to being the place of injection and focusing on how do I come back to being me? How do I love me, right? And so my issue that I had, and this is a hard conversation because it wasn't the best relationship. It was a lot of learning points, but it wasn't really the greatest relationship. And the only reason is because there was days and nights that I would cry within the relationship, and there were days and nights after the relationship that I was just blaming myself, and I was getting frustrated with, man, could we have maybe taken another month maybe to work this out? Could we have figured this out? And ultimately, I was the one that I smothered in my misery. I didn't really run away from it because I knew that facing it was my only way. It's kind of like you can't run from the rain. You kind of have to go towards it if you got to get somewhere, like if it's in your path. And so I smothered in my sadness for a couple weeks, I would say. And it affected me even for my work performance and just even people around me. So
no. Yeah.
It's tough, man. It's a tough place to be when you don't really...
It's a difficult headspace.
Yes.
It's a difficult headspace, and I think that, I'm no way, shape, or form like demeaning you or anything. Like when I was your age, I think I took breakups very hard. Like I think one of the worst breakups I've ever had, I was 19, 20-ish, like around there, and I wallowed in like my own self-pity for like a good 8 months. Like it was bad. Like I would, I would literally go and like talk about the same thing over and over. I don't know if the audience has ever seen Crazy Stupid Love. But like if you ever seen it, it's a super great movie. Steve Carell's in it, Ryan Gosling, and what's her name? Emma Stone. It's a very good movie. Finn obviously hasn't seen it, but it's a rom-com. It's super cool. It's really good. So in that movie, there's a character, Steve Carell's character. He is married to this woman for like, maybe, 15, 20 years or something like that. And she basically confesses that she's having an affair with her boss. And so he doesn't want to hear that she's having this affair, and he jumps out of a moving car to just stop her from talking about it. So he's so he's so far into denial, like he doesn't want to face the music, that he just completely throws himself in harm's way. And I can almost like associate with that with how many times do we see the writing on the wall, the tea leaves are saying, go, 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 you gotta leave, this is toxic, there's nothing here for you anymore.
Often,
and
man.
we still duck our head in the sand and pretend like, oh no, everything's fine, the house is burning behind you and everything's going to crap, and you're just like, no, everything's fine, we can make it work,
We have a sense of hopefulness. That is what it is. You're hopeful that things are going to change. You're expecting a change.
See, and this is where I will debate you on this one, because I don't think that it's hopefulness. I think that it's a denial, because when you get to a point in a relationship, you know when it's over. You know when it's over. It's just the question. It's like playing chicken. Like it's the question is, who's going to admit it first?
Right.
That's what it is. You know when it's over. You're sitting there like, yeah, I don't really get excited seeing this person, and now like every time I see this person, it kind of becomes a chore, and it's like, man, this is a lot of like.
No, and I agree. It was. That's exactly what it was like with, my ex-girlfriend. However, with my ex-girlfriend, it was always, I felt like it was always my fault. And I was like, when do I actually cut this off? I unfortunately I cut her off. I had to cut my ex-girlfriend off because it was becoming so overwhelming that there was no way that I was going to be able to continue this. But I thought she was going to cut me off because...
And that's the thing. Most people oftentimes think that the other person is just, they'll get fed up and do it. And then you stay into a situation that is not conductive. Mm-hmm. It's not productive for you and your mental space, your spiritual space, your physical space, nothing. It's not productive whatsoever. But you stay in it for like, another 6 months, maybe another year, maybe 2 years, longer than you had to, because you have this idea of, oh, okay, well, it's either... Yeah, things will get better. Things are not getting better. It's almost consistently getting like worse, unless there's some drastic change, and that's where I'm gonna give to all my couples out there who are having successful marriages and relationships. Unless there is a drastic change and there's a general desire from both people, you're not gonna find that success, and you can kind of see the writing on the wall. When it's there, you can kind of see it. The question is, are you willing to admit it? And so I think when I was 19, I had someone I was dating, and she ended up sleeping with a person I considered a friend, but he didn't consider me a friend like that. I put that in quotations because I don't know what that means. Still to this day, that's going on almost 11 years later, 12 years later. I still don't get it. But, we're not friends like that. Needless to say, I don't talk to him or I don't talk to her anymore. But, I was so crushed by it. I remember, it was, and this is just me being me because I'm hard on myself. It was pathetic. And, I wallowed in self-pity for about 8 months. And, I talked about the same story over and over again, just like in Crazy Stupid Love. His wife is having this, asking him for divorce because she's cheating on him. And he goes to this bar and he sits there and he tells every person who's within earshot, who's willing to listen for the 30 seconds, that David Lindenhagen slept with my wife. And that's the character's name, the boss. And anybody who was willing to listen, I was like, man, my girlfriend cheated on me with the person I thought was my friend. And I've talked about it from 1 month to month to month to month to month to month, until one day my friend's mom, and shout out to Miss Paul, this woman right here, I love it because I needed the tough love. She looked me depth in my eyes. She said, look here, Adler, you're weak. You're mentally weak. You're just weak. I was like, oh, whoa.
That's pretty aggressive, man.
Chill out. I'm not weak. I'm strong. I'm just trying to figure things out. She said, you have sat here at my house and talked about the same crap for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 months. It's done. It's over. She's not coming back. It's finished. What are you going to do now? She taught me the most valuable lesson that day. It's okay to feel and be upset. It's okay to be down. But what's not okay to stay down and then use that as a reason for why you can't do anything in life. And there's a lot of people that get into these toxic relationships and they break up and they're done and over, and they stay down for 10, 20 years, 30 years and never really capable of recovering. And that was the first lesson, and I needed her. Like, some of you guys might say, oh, well, that's me and that's harsh. But I needed that, because unless I had that, I wouldn't have ever snapped out of it. I could have potentially still been in that situation right now. And so I felt like I learned that at like 20 years old, realizing that when things don't go your way, it's okay to be upset about it. Take time to be upset about it. Take a week, take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever you do, take the time you need to do to at least sit inside those feelings and acknowledge them. Don't run away from them. But then after that, you got to dust your shoulders off, get back up, and you got to get back to the basics.
Absolutely.
Because essentially, even though you're not dating that person anymore, and I want you guys to hear me out. Hear me out on this. It might sound crazy. You may not be dating somebody. You may be single, but technically you're dating yourself. And then what I mean by that is you have to give yourself those kind words, the compliments. You're beautiful. You're handsome. You have to say those things to yourself.
Take yourself to dinner and take yourself to a movie.
Because if you don't know how to love yourself, then how on earth do you plan on loving somebody else? That makes no sense.
It's true. I think that's the best way you really can tie it up, man. It's making me think, I smothered myself for many weeks, and it's because I felt guilty. I felt like I should have taken an additional week to maybe work things out. It was very abrupt. It wasn't even in a bad abrupt. It was like one of those, like, listen, we've tried to, because we did I tried to do the best job I possibly could.
Of course.
In the relationship as the guy. And I know she did the best job. And it's something that goes back to the beginning that we were talking about, that everybody has a role in the relationship, right? Just as you are wanting to grow together with somebody, you also have to be reminded that you have to work on yourself.
Yes.
So one of the biggest things, there's a few things that my dad shared with me, because she didn't like that I talked to my dad about a relationship, and I'm the type of person that I go to my dad about things, and especially when it comes down to what I have to do as a guy. What is it that I have to do better? Okay. I addressed things to him that I felt like maybe I was doing that I could be a better listener, for example. And that was something that I'm proactively always working on, because I enjoy talking, but proactively listening. And I was proactively listening to her, but I was proactively listening to a bunch of toxic negativity. And I asked my dad, well, how are you supposed to listen to somebody who's only talking negative? It was never about like how her day was or what she was doing, how her parents were, and so forth and so on. But one of the things my dad says, son, you guys bring 50% to the table individually. Now I said, well, how? Or you mean I'm not giving 50%? He's like, you're right. You only get your 50%, but it's how much you put in and how much you have is two different things. How much you put in and how much you have. How much you have is 50%. One relationship requires two people. 1 divided by 2 is 0.5. So each person gets a half slice or half of the pie. But it's how much of the pie are you going to eat? 100% of your 50%, and she gets 100% of her 50%. And I was having this conversation the other day with somebody else, and I was having to share with them because they were having a hard time too. But the point is, sometimes you can be awesome individually as a person. I'm pursuing to become a nurse. She asked me to stop working in healthcare because I hung out with women at work. And because of that, our relationship already right there was dependent on my occupation. Mm-hmm. Could you imagine had I stopped working in a hospital because I hung out with or worked with women, and because she felt insecure about her situation, which I understand, I get it. If she feels insecure, I get it. Mm-hmm. But it was almost to the point now she was dipping into my 50% by controlling where I have to be in order for our relationship to continue working. And I said to myself, no, this can't be. And there was other multiple occasions where I had situations where it was something that she didn't agree with, and we try to have the moments of compromise and the times we've talked about being compatible and being able to have that conversation. But the number one thing that I got from the conversation I had with my dad that applied from that point on in our relationship for the 3 months more that we were together was that you can be awesome individually, but not awesome together. And sometimes you're not going to be awesome together.
Yeah.
We think that because we're awesome and the other person's awesome, our perception of awesome, because we use our perception of who we are and try to create the awesome of somebody else, or to create what is awesome or what awesome should look like on somebody else. So then we go, oh, okay, that's my other 50%. That's my better half.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always work that way. And I learned a very, very important lesson that you don't tip into the other person 50%, and you also allow yourself to love you 100%. The Bible says to love your neighbor as yourself, meaning to love you so much that you can love other people. You have to prioritize yourself, which is why taking care of yourself, why we talk about self-care and treating yourself is so important, because it prepares you. It can also be the revival aspect. Because when you come out of a relationship, you got to take care of yourself. But getting into the relationship when you're single, like you and I individually,
Yeah.
we are able to be better. We're a little bit more revived. We are reconstructed and much stronger and much wiser and much more able to handle the relationships and being able to communicate with our spouse or the girlfriend or boyfriend. So it's at the point where we can sit back and say, okay, all right, so we could talk about these things. And you go down an avenue you've been before, you know how to handle them.
Of course, yeah. Well, and you know, there's something that you said that I just immediately, it just clicked in my head at least. It resounded in my head. Earlier this week, I put out a post on 24 Hours in a Day. If you have an Instagram, check me out. I usually try to drop either workouts or inspirational words or motivational quotes or something that can help feed you physically, mentally, and spiritually, all the above. But you said something that I kind of touched on in a video earlier this week. You said you felt bad, you felt guilty, saying, "Hey, you know what? This is not working for me anymore." But you felt guilty and you felt like you had to go back and you wanted to give it another week or so. In my video earlier this week, I talked about how once you've made a decision, you have to stick with it. You have to take all the consequences that come along with it. You can't start to get cold feet on a decision just because you feel some type of way. Your emotions can sometimes mislead you and sometimes guide you down the wrong path. And what's the most important thing is once you have the clear frame of mind and you've decided this is the course of action that we need to do, no matter how difficult it is, no matter how much your flesh, your body is telling you, no, don't do it, you have to go down that path because you know exactly what comes with this. You know that nothing productive comes from this. That's like trying to, grow crops in the middle of a desert. There's nothing there.
That's good now.
There's no water. There's nothing. There's no nutrients. It's too hot. There's nothing there. You
Just
have to pick up your crops. Exactly. Right. Pick up your crops and go someplace else. Yep. So for me, it's just like it hits on a different level because, I was the one, and I'm being completely transparent. I wasted pretty much a year of my life wallowing over somebody that didn't want me. And did that change her life at all? Was she affected by it at all?
I wouldn't say wasted though. I feel like wasted is an understatement.
Okay. So let me clarify. I say wasted, but I learned.
I learned emotionally to do that though because
a lot.
Your teacher ripped you a new one.
Yes. So
which
it's
helped
actually
you
Jane's mom.
Oh.
Yes.
Why did I think it was your teacher?
No. She because I would be sitting on the couch all the time and she'd be like, "Hey, are you dating anybody?" No, not yet. I'm still trying to.
You know what's fascinating?
Trying to figure it out.
And this is nothing. No, like take no offense to this. And we talk about this on the show a lot. That you'll be what 31 this year.
Yeah.
And I'll be 23 in about a little under a month.
3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks from now.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that you've been 23. You've been where I'm at. And
back in my day.
Oh, stop. It's just crazy to know, like, to hear your stories. When I'm 31 and I'm looking back and, seeing another young guy who's 23 years old who's, been where you've been and been where I've been, and it's a fascinating feeling, man. It's a fascinating moment when you and it's like a very weird thought when you come to like this realization of Adler's been where I've been. Adler's been 23, 24, 25, 26. Like, I've got many more years to experience what you've already been through, and not to make you feel old. That's not.
No, hey, no, it's the truth. I don't feel old. It's the truth.
There are things that I think young people, especially right now in this generation, where everything is so superficial. Everyone's so superficial and very, unfortunately sensitive to the way that breakups happen or the result of certain situations, and they don't find the logic or the common sense in those learning points. And that's because sometimes we misunderstand somebody, we misunderstand what we're supposed to learn, or we misunderstand the overall concept of loving ourselves in the midst of toxic relationships or the development of a toxic relationship. So I don't know.
And that's kind of why I say it's, even though you're no longer with the person and you've been with that person for X amount of years and you feel like you lost a part of yourself, which is very much true. I can't say that it's not true for somebody, because that's something that they feel. So I can validate their feelings and be like, that's how you feel. But you also got to remember that now you're dating yourself. Nobody's going to get you flowers. So buy yourself your flowers. Nobody's going to give you, well, not to say nobody, but you're not going to get those compliments on a day-to-day basis. Oh, you look so handsome, you look so beautiful, you look like this, or you're so smart. Talk to yourself in that way. I think that, like, we give ourselves way too much of a hard time. Like, we're quick to forgive strangers, we're quick to forgive our friends, we're quick to forgive our parents, our family members, and everybody else in between, but we refuse to forgive ourselves.
That's something I wrote in the book.
That's something that's just crazy.
That was a point that I made in my book. One of the biggest things with vulnerability, it's learning to find the strength to forgive yourself. You can't forgive other people until you forgive yourself. And, when you forgive yourself, you're the one who's you're doing yourself a favor. It's not doing anybody else a favor by forgiving yourself. You're forgiving yourself, and that's doing you a favor, because at the end of the day, God expects us to forgive ourselves so that we can forgive others. It says in the Bible to forgive those who trespassed against you. Like, we're supposed to forgive those, but you're supposed to also forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Or else God, you're holding yourself from receiving the blessings, receiving those opportunities.
Well,
and with that being said, I think when people read that part of the book, it'll make more sense as far as what I was talking about.
You definitely need to get the book.
Chapters.
If you trying to understand what Finn's saying, you definitely just got to get the book and actually read it in order to grasp the concept. That's all. That's my advice for anybody who's listening. If you want to be able to understand exactly what he's trying to say, you got to get the book. Yeah, check it out.
I don't want to spill all the beans. I mean, some beans can be spilled, but I don't want to spill all the beans.
Of course not. And I mean, like, you brought up the Bible twice, right? So one of the verses, one of my favorite verses, it says, "Above all else, guard your heart, because from it, love flows from it." Meaning that you have to protect your heart, regardless what happens. You have to be able to protect it, because that's where love comes from. So if you can't keep and protect the love that's within it for yourself, then how do you expect, or how do you plan on loving somebody else? That doesn't happen. So you realistically have to and I call it get back to the basics. When I say get back to the basics, that means you're dating yourself. So find your time to dress up in some good clothes, take yourself out to eat, Go to the gym, work out, run a mile or two, lift some weights, eat a salad. Do things that are productive that make you feel good about yourself. So that way you can kind of get back to the basics and be like, all right, hey, you know what? This happened to me and it sucks. It's terrible.
It does suck.
But I'm still me. I'm still myself at the end of the day. I'm still a whole individual. And that's something that's key and that's essential. And I feel like a lot of times we just completely dismiss it and we discount it just because it's just like, okay, this is who I was when I was with this person, and this is what I did when I was with this person, and this is what we used to say, and this is how we used to react, and that person's no longer thinking about you. That person has moved on. Yeah. And you have to be okay with it. You can't sit here and pretend like, you can't refuse to grow yourself just because you're stuck living in the past.
Well, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Is I think that, and like you said, we could debate on it, but I think it's that hopeful mindset. We hope that we hope that person's gonna be like, you know what, maybe I'll give that guy another chance, or I'll hope, I hope that guy will come back around. And I think, we can agree to disagree that people are going to be either hopeful or people are going to live in a mindset of regret. I just see it from the perspective of like, I have been very hopeful. An experience that I will share kind of just as we're closing out is, the Valentine's Day experience that I had many, many years ago, back in 7th grade, where I was like, man, I like this girl. I liked her a lot. And I remember, I had spent all my pocket money on like some flowers, a teddy bear, and some chocolate, and a card. And that spent like $35.
You're a regular Casanova.
Listen, it was just my dad and my mom advised me what to get for this chick, and I said, all right, cool. It was a nice, some Russell Stover's chocolate. It wasn't like some like Hershey's BS that.
First of all, Hershey's is amazing. So
I don't know. I would say on that. Okay, every other day.
You didn't get her Godiva.
I didn't get her Godiva, but every other day there was
chocolate.
Russell Stover's. They're all from the same company. It's not like it's coming from anywhere else. But no, like Hershey's any other day. But on Valentine's Day, you gotta go for a little step up, upgrade a little bit. Take a little, swing it up a little bit. So
Ghirardelli.
Oh God, don't. Okay, now I'm feeling
Go
a
ahead.
little sense about my chocolate selection. But it's okay. Russell Stover's, and then I come to find out, I go over to her I remember 7th grade, I'm just walking over there, I'm like, I had this like cocky jock, kind of like, hey, what's up?
Swagger.
I was swagging it, man. I was walking around and I was like, hey, you want to be my Valentine? And then as soon as I said that, she said, Finn, you're so sweet, but unfortunately, and I'm like, I already know where we're going with this. Ripped that teddy bear's head off, ripped the card in half, threw it all, took the flower, stomped on them, ripped them in half.
You did this in front of her?
I did this in front of her. I was upset. And the worst part about it is that she looked at me as her boyfriend kissed her on like the cheek. I was a savage, man.
This story went from bad to worse. Not only did you do all that, then her boyfriend came and kissed her and was like, hey, what's going on with this guy?
Exactly. And so I also kept the chocolates and I shared them at lunch.
Oh, man. Oh, God.
So the moral of the story is that I felt so bum hurt, and I was still hopeful that maybe later I'll try again. So we would play soccer. It was a couple weeks later. I do remember we played soccer on the field, and I was trying to be a little bit of a flirt. And, she was like, I'm not buying it, Finn. Like, I got a boyfriend. And I'm like, and I understood, like, at this time, I'm just like, that really is your boyfriend, isn't it? And I was like, okay. But I was so head over heels for this girl. Her name was Alicia. And, man, she was one of the best soccer players I ever played with in school. And she would tear me a new one every time I, missed the goal or something like. But, man, that Valentine's Day, it really crushed me, dude. I know it seems really aggressive to be ripping up teddy bears' heads and keeping chocolate and sharing with your buddies at lunch. But, like, what am I supposed to do, man? I mean, I felt like I had my heart crushed. And even then, in that very moment, every guy
especially
and every girl.
You're a kid, because, that's like...
It's like
you've never...
is starting to...
It's not even that. It's just you... As a kid, you've never experienced that level or that type of rejection. That's something completely different. You know what I mean? Like, you're 13 years old, and that to me, when you rip a teddy bear off and you start acting like that, that means you've never dealt with something like this, and you don't know how to.
I could have definitely done that somewhere else.
Yeah, you didn't know how to compute it, and that's okay. You learn. I bet you're not going to do that again.
No.
No, of course. So you learn from that situation.
I mean,
now
if you see me ripping up a teddy bear as a grown man,
well, we got. I have a whole bunch of questions, but like, all right. So there's two things that I'd like to kind of touch on before like we close out. The art of gracefully accepting being turned down. I feel like at this point in my life I've mastered it. I'm really good at it. Like when I'm getting rejected, I'm almost I'm a pro like at it. Like the the last like situation that like I was like super serious about she she was a really cool girl. I still think she's a super cool girl. It just didn't work out. And like we ended up, it was like one of those things where she basically stopped talking to me. So I was just like, okay, all right, you know what, ghosted me. That's cool. I'm not like I'm not no hard feelings per se. Of course, I was upset about it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like it hurt, but at the same time me calling that person, be like, hey, you hurt me, did all this. That's not really gonna do anything.
No, it's not gonna fix the situation at all.
And I have this belief that closure is just verbalizing things that you already knew to begin with.
It's confirming or affirming something.
It's just verbalizing the physical evidence that you saw with your own two eyes. Now you're just speaking it, which to me, I feel like it's like telling you about my day twice. Like I already told you about my day. I don't need to go through it a second time. You already kind of accept it. So now, kind of like I gracefully get turned down. And it's just like, okay, hey, I can see that she's no longer interested. That's okay. I usually respond with like a text message saying, hey, I see that this is happening and this is happening. It sucks, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful life, a wonderful day, whatever, and I hope that we can stay friends. Which 9 times out of 10, when you say I hope we can stay friends, they usually don't take you up on the offer anyway.
No.
But I always give that opportunity if for some reason somebody ever does want to take that opportunity. And the last thing I want to touch on is, this is one of my favorite Drake quotes of all time, is don't cry that it's over. Be happy that it happened. Because oftentimes that relationship that went so terribly wrong, so terribly awry, a lot of people fight just to have that experience. Because so many people out there will live the rest of their lives and not know what it feels or what it is to be loved.
Right.
So, that being said, guys, we are the Best You Nation, and we are so thankful that you guys tuned in to hear us out and just to be with us for another weekly dose of positivity, and just allowing us to, coming through your speakers or your headphones, be here with you on your afternoon drive from work or to work or from errands, whatever it is that you're doing while listening to us. We just appreciate you, and we appreciate everything that we just appreciate just everything that you guys do for us. I don't want it to just ever go unsaid. I know I've said it, like I harped on it like 3 or 4 times already, but we definitely appreciate you. And is there any closing things that you got to mention?
No, other than you guys can, stream our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora. Audible. Anywhere pretty much. YouTube. Your major platforms. Pandora, that's great.
Was it Podbean?
Amazon. So pretty much anywhere you want, you can check us out. Google Podcasts, like. We are global.
Yes.
That is another thing. We are global. But make sure to follow us together on our page at the Best You Nation.
It's on Instagram and on Facebook.
And you can also follow us individually. You can follow Adler at 24 hours a day.
24HRSINADAY.
Yes, and then you can follow me, obviously, at the Finn Foster. So that's pretty much it. That's 2 N's, by the way. So everyone puts it in 1 N. I don't know why.
FINN.
Yeah. But also remember, June 25th, pre-order
the book.
And make sure to tune in every week. If this was your first time joining us today, welcome.
Thank you.
And we will see you guys next week.
We'll tune in next week.
All right.